Me. Today we're going to talk about gender dysphoria. What's up, y'all? It's Casey, and I use they, them, and their pronouns. Today, I want to talk to you all about a topic that is very close to me and honestly one that's pretty difficult to talk about, and that's gender dysphoria. Whenever I first told Megan that I was thinking about doing a video on this topic, she was very supportive, but her very first question was, "Are you sure you're comfortable doing a video about that?" And my immediate answer was no. Now that it's been about 3 or 4 days later, my answer is now still no. Gender dysphoria is one of those things that's really, really difficult for me to talk about, and probably everyone else that deals with it as well. It is for sure something that can get me down and depressed, and it's not really something I've ever opened up to with many other people. The reason I want to do this now, though, is I wish whenever I was younger, especially in my younger 20s, that I would have had someone that I could have talked to, or at least someone who I could have looked to and learned from their experiences and known then that the things that I was thinking, the distress that I was feeling was valid, and the hate that I was having for my body had nothing to do with body image issues. It was just I didn't quite feel comfortable in the body that I had. So what is dysphoria? I think it's probably best to define that word first before jumping into what gender dysphoria is. And because I have my computer right here, we'll just Google it. So Google says that dysphoria is a state of feeling uneasy, unhappy, or unwell. I'm not crazy, I'm just a little unwell, I know right now you can't tell. But we're talking about gender dysphoria. One more thing that I think it's important to have a decent understanding of before getting into how I experience gender dysphoria is what the term gender identity means. So gender identity is basically a person's sense of their own gender. It can either be congruent with their sex or gender assigned at birth, or it can be incongruent with their gender or sex assigned at birth. So when looking at gender dysphoria, there's two different approaches you can take. There's the clinical version that's in the DSM-5 that comes with this whole subset of criteria that you need to meet. And then there's a person's real experiences. That's what I want to talk to you all about today, my own experiences. And that's really all that I can speak on. A lot of these things may be common to others who do struggle with gender dysphoria, but some of them may just be specific to me, and I don't want to speak for anyone else. There's 1,000,001 plus ways that this may show up for them. So everything that I talk about today is only what I've experienced. So a lot of people assume that if you experience gender dysphoria, you were probably trans. And to be honest, I kind of fell into that trap of thinking as well whenever I was starting to explore my own gender identity. And I don't blame myself and I don't blame anyone else, because for a lot of us, the only terms we've really ever heard were a man, a woman, or transgender. But for me, none of those terms quite fit how I saw myself. I realized that the term non-binary is what actually felt closest to me. And I know some non-binary people do also consider themselves trans. I do not, just because I think trans is a very specific and meaningful term for a group of people, and it's just not one that I feel describes me and who I am. So how does dysphoria manifest itself? For me, I remember as a kid wishing that I had a different body, probably as young as 4 or 5 years old. But I also remember not quite knowing what that body looked like that I was hoping for. I knew I didn't want to look like a cisgender woman that the media typically portrays as beautiful. And then as I got a little bit older, the term stud or butch or just masculine woman also didn't quite feel right for me. But on the other side of that, I also didn't want to be a man. That's also a term that didn't quite feel meaningful to who I was. I remember wishing my voice sounded differently. I'd often get comments or more so jokes about how I sounded like a man.
Wait, that doesn't even make sense. No child can sound like a man. Like, not even, like, that makes no sense. That's just impossible, right?
That would really get to me and cause me a lot of anxiety and insecurity whenever I would talk to people. And to this day, I'm sure some of that still plays into the insecurity and anxiety that I have whenever I'm meeting new people or talking to someone new on the phone, questioning, are they going to be confused by my voice? Are they going to make fun of me when we hang up? And that shows up for me even though I am, for the most part, pretty comfortable with my voice nowadays. Except for that damn southern twang. Like, can y'all hear that? Listen. 10. I don't know. I thought it went away, but okay, whatever. Once puberty hit, probably like most people, is when things began to change for me. I look back at old pictures of myself wearing jeans that hugged my hips, push-up bras, and longer hair, gossiping about boys, and trying to guess who we thought had the biggest dick. I feel for that kid. I was never comfortable trying to be that person, but I needed to fit in just like every other teenager needs to fit in. It wasn't really until college that the dysphoria around my chest became more apparent. I had gotten into lifting more, and I was really starting to like the way that my shoulders and biceps were looking in shirts, but I didn't like the 2 bumps that accompanied them. Ever since puberty and my chest began to grow, I remember friends and family members making comments about how small my chest was. And that honestly never really bothered me because whenever I looked in the mirror, they were anything but small and a lot bigger than what I ever wanted them to be. Top surgery is something that I've never been interested in, probably because I don't really like doctors or hospitals or pain. Megan's the strong one in this relationship. I am a complete wuss when it comes to pain. But the dysphoria around my chest has mostly been silenced. Shout out to Discovering Binders! Although they aren't very big naturally, once I began binding, I felt like I found a new sense of love and appreciation for the body that I have and for how it looks in the clothes that I like to wear. Nowadays, my dysphoria really only gets bad once a month. Yep, that once a month. I know what you're thinking.
Casey, everybody that has their period hates that time of the month.
Well, it's not really that I hate it. Yes, it's uncomfortable and it's painful. I just don't feel like my body should have to go through it. It connects me with the uterus that I'm able to ignore the rest of the month and a uterus that will never get used. I do not ever plan to have kids, nor have I ever wanted to bear children. So in my opinion, my body is being put through an unnecessary cycle. It makes me feel very disconnected and causes me a lot of stress because what's happening on the inside of my body does not quite match the way that I've come to present myself and the way that I see myself on the outside. And this one may be confusing for some. While I do experience dysphoria around my period, I don't actually, and I never have experienced any distress or dysphoria around my actual... Can I say that on YouTube? Let's try it. Vulva? Okay. We'll go with vulva. I've never experienced any dysphoria around my genitalia whatsoever. And while I know that this more so becomes an issue during sex for a lot of people with gender dysphoria, that's just not something that I've ever experienced. As I've gotten older and I've become more comfortable with myself and my identity, I've mostly been able to mitigate a lot of the physical aspects of dysphoria. Most days I'm comfortable in my body. The way that I dress, the way that I speak, and even my haircut. Look at that fresh cut. I think all of those things suit exactly who I want the world to see and who I've always seen myself as. I even have to go to a barber and a beautician just to keep it up. I honestly, truly doubt that I'll ever be free of dysphoria. But I have noticed a significant decrease over the last 4 to 5 years since being able to align certain physical aspects with my gender identity. It hasn't completely rid me of depression and anxiety, but I truly believe that has more to do with social concerns rather than actual dysphoria. Like when I go to the bathroom in public and old white women stare at me. Another thing that has been incredibly helpful is the people that I surround myself with. I don't accept or keep anyone in my life that makes me feel like I need to conform to a traditional gender role or someone that constantly reminds me of my dysphoria. The people that I surround myself with on a daily basis have been incredibly respectful of my pronouns, the name that I use, and just me in general. And I'd be remiss if I did not stress just how important that has been for my overall mental health. Because of those people in my life, I feel so much more confident in who I am. I feel so much more comfortable in who I am. And honestly, because of them, I'm doing this video right now because I know that I have their support in this and so many other things in life. I hope that sharing my experience with gender dysphoria has been helpful for those of you who also experience similar experiences, feelings, incongruences. Incongruences, we'll go with that. And if you just happened to watch this video because you wanted to learn more about gender dysphoria, I also hope that it has been helpful for you in understanding what those of us who do experience gender dysphoria go through on a pretty consistent basis, but also helps you to be more supportive of someone in your life that may be dealing with this. I really appreciate you all watching this video and allowing me to be vulnerable with you. Please go back and check out some of our other videos. Meg and I are going to try to push out at least one video a week focused around relationships, LGBTQ, mental health, race, and of course we'll include some of our travels because that's something that has been so important in our relationship. If you found this video helpful, informative, or I don't know, entertaining, please smash that like button and subscribe if you want to hang out with us on the tube in the future. The tube? Do they say that? Subscribe, please.